What is up, everybody? Trip Morgan here for Panthers Source, our weekly show live here. We're breaking down everything throughout the off season. You know, the regular season, we do the post-game show and everything right here live all the time, breaking it down with all of you and having guests on the show as always. And I've got another one here tonight. But before we do that, why don't you go ahead and like and follow us right here on this Facebook page. This is where I do all the live stuff at for the shows and whatnot. Share this right here and try to get out to more Panther fans so we can get a big group in here gathering around talking Panthers football, breaking down everything. It's that simple. We are now also, I've got stuff up. We're on Google Play now for podcasts. All of this will be downloadable. If you can't always catch the show, it'll be there later on the podcast form. I'm soon to go to iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, other stuff like that. And I'll keep you updated as that goes on. But right now, I'm going to introduce Eric Summers from Cat Scratch Reader, SB Nation website for Panthers. Doing a lot of, he's an editor over there. They're covering a lot of stuff. I'm sure you've seen them on Facebook, Twitter, all over the place. Eric, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Going good, man. Busy day today. This morning, it kicked off this morning. Then you had some news late this afternoon, but I know that's probably kept y'all busy over there on the site.
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, it's definitely provided a lot of clarity as to what our coaching staff is thinking, what our running back room is going to look like, switching some things up on us here after the draft all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, just when, we're getting pretty excited, off of the draft and free agency, we felt like, Hurney made some really good moves in his second term as GM, I guess you would call it. And then today, fans started getting a little bit weary. Ron Rivera jumped up there. We'll start there, as a matter of fact. Ron Rivera got on WFNZ this morning in an interview and was talking to the guys, and it got brought up about the left guard position, which is the one spot Carolina hasn't addressed at all since losing Andrew Norwell. Fans were hoping we'd hit it in the draft. It just didn't fall that way for what Hurney and them wanted, and then they didn't hit it in free agency either. They picked up some guys undrafted, and obviously we all know Amini Silatolu is there right now. You have Tyler Larson who can compete. Last year we drafted Taylor Moton, who a lot of people felt like he should be there, but the team kind of liked him as a tackle, and now he's back as a possibility. But this morning, Rivera saying that right now Amini Silatolu is the front runner to win that left guard spot. And I think if you're watching the show, chances are you've seen clips of Amini Silatolu getting absolutely ran over at the guard position. And it set ablaze to Twitter this morning among Panther fans, Eric. I know we were talking a little bit about it right before we went live here. What are your thoughts on the left guard situation and Amini Silatolu, and where you think things could end up, and where you think they should end up?
Well, I'll tell you, my specialty over on Cat Scratch Reader is the hog mollies, man. I'm a former offensive and defensive lineman. That's my thing. Every week when we watch the games, I pay careful attention to the boys in the trenches, and I make a lot of notes. I do the weekly hog molly report over there.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I've got nothing good to say about Amini Silatolu, man. I wish I could offer people some reassurance, but all I can say is that Rivera looks at him and says, hey, this guy has been around the longest. I guess he's the favorite. I don't see the skills, man. I mean, every time I saw him put in the game, you could guarantee that first play that he was in the game, he was about to give up a sack. He did it at 3 times I can think of off the top of my head.
Specifically when he went in for Trey Turner a couple times for a few plays. Yeah. Like the Chicago game stands out the most. He just buckled on the first play.
The Bears game, the Eagles game, I mean, just absolutely runt over. Fletcher Cox made him look like a doormat in the Eagles game. It was awful. Yeah. But yeah, I have nothing good to say about Amini Silatolu. All I'm hoping is that Rivera's given, doing the coach speak thing, giving the benefit of the doubt to the veteran. Everybody else on the team has a lot less experience than he does, and he did say it would be a competition throughout camp, but we'll just have to see. I tweeted out earlier when I found out about what Rivera said. I said that if Amini Silatolu is our week 1 starter at left guard, our best chance to win the Super Bowl this year is for him to get injured.
Yeah. And
I mean, I don't want him to get injured, but it's one of those, it just says about the coaching staff, if they install him as the week 1 starter, they're just not likely to make a change.
And that's like, so this is my thing. When I initially saw this, like a lot of other people, it upset me a little bit, but I try to think things through before I like jump up there and start, freaking out or whatnot. But it's right now it is May. And Rivera did say that Moton would have an opportunity to compete for that job and take that position, which there's a lot of time between now and the first game of the regular season, obviously. But the thing about Rivera that kind of, he made a statement this offseason talking about Andrew Norwell when they lost him to free agency. And he said, it's funny, when Norwell, we got him as an undrafted free agent, we didn't think he was going to translate well, and we didn't like what we were seeing. And Rivera was forced to put him in 2014 when the Panthers went on that late season run to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And they were forced to put him in, and we all know, I mean, it was history after that. He's, was there in 2015, was a vital part of that offensive line. And then obviously 2016, 2017, last year, top guard in the league. And for Rivera to sit there and admit that he was way wrong on that offensive guard position, that kind of speaks volumes when you're talking about leaving Amini Silatolu in, who we all know didn't have a good 2017 season. But now you're saying that he's the front runner. That's not going to sit easy with Panther fans. Now I'm still one that believes, I really think if Tyler Larsen and Taylor Moton get a legitimate shot at that job, they're going to take it. And if not, I am going to really start to be concerned about Ron Rivera's offensive line development. And that's ultimately a decision that he makes. Offensive line coaches, I would imagine, they're sitting in there, they're coaching these guys up and they make suggestions. But at the end of the day, a lot of people believe Rivera likes to go with the experienced guy. Taylor Moton's only got 1 year under his belt,
Well, I agree with what Rivera went on to say later in the radio broadcast, that Taylor Moton is a natural right tackle. That I agree with him 100%. That's the ideal spot for Taylor. And we're in a situation this year where Darrell Williams has another good season, then we might lose him to free agency next year. And then Moton would be the guy to naturally step in at that right tackle spot. So I think it's going to be important for him to get a lot of reps at right tackle in the preseason. He may get a shot at left guard, but I think long term, the best thing for us is for Taylor Moton to be a ready to go right tackle potentially for next season. I think he's a natural fit over there. I absolutely believe he can play left guard. The truth is, if you're a big guy, if you're an offensive lineman in the NFL, if you can play any of the other spots on the line, you can probably play left guard. Left guard is the easiest position to play on the offensive line. It makes all the sense in the world that we would let Andrew Norwell walk away for the amount of money he got. It is a replaceable position. You may not be able to replace him with another Andrew Norwell, but you're probably going to be able to get somebody competent in there. I think the name that I'm really going to be watching, we've got UDFAs. I don't know a whole lot about any of them, and it's unlikely they'll make an impact week one if any of them stick to the roster. But I really got my eyes on Greg Van Rotten. Okay. I think he has. I've got my eyes on him for both center and guard. Every time he only got in the game a few times during the regular season last year, but every time he did, he made a play that jumped off the screen to me. He, at one point, was the lead blocker, ran through about 2 or 3 people on the way for Christian McCaffrey to get a touchdown around the left end, I want to say, against the Dolphins. I think it was Christian McCaffrey. But, man, he trucked his way down the field, knocking down everybody in his path, and you could just tell that he wanted it and he wanted to be out there. I think he's a guy who's looking to prove it, and we should all have our eyes on him. Tyler Larsen, I think he's fine. I don't think he's the future at center necessarily. I think he's going to be serviceable. He may help us be in a position next year when Khalil retires that we can draft somebody, maybe not in the first round to play center, but we probably should look for somebody more talented than him at the center spot long term. I just don't like thinking. I don't like knowing that those coaches are looking at a Amini Silatolu, seeing what I've seen, seeing what we've all seen apparently, and thinking that he can play, that he can even be a lineman in the NFL. I mean, we cut him in 2016.
Yeah.
He was healthy then. He didn't make the 53. I think a lot of this is coach speak, trying to motivate the young guys personally.
Yeah, and I do too, and I'm glad you feel that way because, like I said this morning, it lit a fire under Panthers Twitter this morning, and a lot of fans, and I think it's coach speak because Rivera did say he's the front runner right now. And as of right now, I'm sure he is. He's an experienced guy. He's been there regardless of what we think as far as anybody going and being better than him right now at that spot. I think it's absolutely coach's speak. I feel like come training camp and going into the preseason and then ultimately the regular season, I just find it hard that Amini would beat out anybody at that job. But, Rivera and Hurney drafted Sila Tolu. And there's a lot of people out there that seem, that they kind of have an attachment to a draft pick like that. But there's a time, too, where you have to say, cut your losses. We messed up. We missed out on this one. And like you said, they've already cut him once. And now you lose Andrew Norwell. The depth spot's kind of shaky there. A lot of people were hoping we get one of those, like a Frank Ragnall in the first round, a center guard flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't fall that way.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep our eye on, they signed that guard from Minnesota, Jeff Surlis. I just don't know much about him, but we'll see what he's made of as well. I mean, there's competition there, but none of it's a lock is where I'm at. And let's face it, Matt Khalil's not getting any better at left tackle. I think we've seen the ceiling for Matt Khalil. Maybe he'll take a small step forward in the second year with Carolina. But he is who he is. At this point, he's a below average left tackle in this league. And all we can hope is that he'll be serviceable enough. And he did okay in spurts last year, but he did have Andrew Norwell next to him. I'm just afraid that with Khalil, whoever's playing left guard, and then Ryan Khalil on the final year of his NFL career, I'm just scared that left side is going to be a huge problem all year.
Yeah, and that kind of rolls us right into our next topic here. We got obviously Jonathan Stewart left this year. The power back that's, been with Carolina for years. He's one of the franchise faces for a while. After drafting Christian McCaffrey last year, that was leaving McCaffrey, Cameron Artis-Payne, Fozzy Whitaker in the backfield. Rivera was saying, Cap's going to get his opportunity to take that power back role. Now, we all kind of felt like you're not going to really go into 2018 with the limited, snaps and opportunities you've given Cap over the years and keep just Christian McCaffrey as your every down back. Now, Carolina just signed this week C.J. Anderson. A lot of talk was surrounding that May 8th date because of the comp pick formula and all that. Well, C.J. Anderson didn't apply to that because he was released by Denver.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was good news, and we were able to get him, a little while before that date. But this is and I think everybody was on board with this signing. I mean, this is a very good value signing, $1.7 million 1 year prove it deal, $800,000 incentive. It's great for Carolina. It's great for CJ. Tell me a little bit about what you think about this back. I know y'all did a write up on CSR. Talking about this signing and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you absolutely can't argue with the price, and I had to eat a little bit of crow. I said that there's no way he was going to sign for less than $3 million, even with his situation, but he sure did. I think this couldn't have worked out better for us, and this is also something that speaks to why maybe it was a good idea to move on from Dave Gettleman as general manager. Not saying that I'm 100% sold on Hurney again yet. He did have a good offseason, but it's just, back in the day is a little still too fresh in my head to give him a pass quite yet. But, Gettleman going out, and he apparently had all these offers for the second pick, didn't listen to any of them, went and got Saquon Barkley. And then you've got a guy like C.J. Anderson just standing there waiting for somebody to sign him. He was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He's the number one rated pass blocking running back in the NFL via Pro Football Focus. I mean, this guy can play, and it's really an ideal signing for us. This lets Cameron Artis-Payne not have to step into a lead role right away. I love Anderson. I think he doesn't have that top gear that you would love in a running back, but man, he has burst.
Yes, he does.
That guy can go from 0 to 60 fast. He may not go from 0 to 100, but 0 to 60, that's what I'm looking for. I want a guy who's patient, will find that crease, and explode through it before you can do anything about it.
Yeah.
When I watch him run, I feel like I'm watching a younger Jonathan Stewart. He has an excellent technique. He keeps his body lean forward. His feet are always moving. That was something that I always loved about Stewart. You were never bringing him down. He was never falling backwards. when you tackled him. He was always going forwards, and it's the same thing with C.J. Anderson. And C.J. is going to be in a better situation here than he was in Denver. Denver, obviously, awful at the quarterback spot, mediocre offensive line like ours, but we've got a significant amount more talent, obviously, at quarterback, at the other running back spots, and definitely a wide receiver to take some of the pressure off the running game.
Yeah.
So I really like the signing. I think this was about the best we could ask for as Panther fans to shore up the running back depth.
Yeah, and one thing you hit on that I'm really pleased with in C.J. Anderson is that burst you talked about. That's something I felt like Stu kind of lost in his last year, maybe last 2 years, is it seemed like he was getting to those holes just a half a second late. In NFL, that makes up a big difference, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But C.J. Anderson still also has that agility ability to quick cutbacks. He can get skinny in between tight spaces. I mean, I we're rolling highlights up here, and man, it's crazy the little creases that he was able to find in some of these runs. And of course, there's a lot of gifs rolling around on Twitter, obviously, but
and he's a wide guy too.
He is.
You know, I mean, you think the way he gets through those holes, you'd think he'd be more slight, but man, he's built. He's stout. He looks like a smaller Mike Tolbert to me.
Yeah, and that's been a popular comparison. You know, as far as maybe a more nimble, and I've even seen the word spree Mike Tolbert thrown around.
yeah, spry. Yeah.
But I'm sitting here. We got his stats pulled up. You know, he's averaged his yard per carry average is 4.4 for his career. Obviously, he came into the league in 2013. You hit the nail on the head last year. 1,007 yards, his first 1,000-yard season on a really just not a good offense, which is pretty impressive because he was one of the only things they had going for him. Demaryius Thomas has been on a downslope due to bad quarterback play.
Poor Demaryius, man. Yeah, he can't catch a break over there.
So I mean, and he had a rough 2016 year, which I think he missed some of that due to injury. Which may be something I've seen some people bring that up, saying if he can stay healthy, he's good. Not a whole lot of injury history from what I'm seeing up here and what I've read, but
it's a running back, man.
Yeah.
Running backs are just going to get hurt,
especially those bigger boys. Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean, Stewart. It's rare that Stewart had an entire year to play. He'd usually miss 2 or 3 games here and there. I mean, it's just a position where you're going to get dinged up and you're going to miss a game or 2 here and there if you don't get a major injury. That's why you got to have a lot of depth at the position.
Yep, for sure. And I think it's like you said, it's the perfect complement back to Christian McCaffrey in that run game, what they want to try to do. I'm ready to see it, what Norv's going to incorporate for all that, as a matter of fact. But speaking of running backs, we lost one today. Fozzy Whitaker, one of the Panthers veterans here for a few years. He's made the screenplay infamous in Pantherland over here. Gone out with the ACL tear on Monday. Apparently is when the injury happened. They announced it today, and it kind of makes sense now why they went out and got Elijah Hood, a former Carolina running back. It kind of came out of nowhere originally. A lot of people were kind of surprised by that, and then the news today kind of made a little bit more sense of it.
And I'm also hearing a lot though that they're going to go out and try to find another third down type back guy, someone who's a little bit more like Fozzy. Hood's a bruiser, man.
Yes, he is.
He's a between the tackles guy too. So by my count, Cameron Payne's in that same vein too. So we've got 3 guys who make their 11 between the tackles, while we've got McCaffrey, who I believe that McCaffrey can run between the tackles also, but he also does a lot outside the tackles as well. So we don't really have a proper backup to McCaffrey's role right now. And we were talking earlier, and I didn't ever look it up. Maybe off the top of your head. Is Shane Vereen still available?
Yes, he is. I actually was talking. I talked with somebody on Twitter about that today. They brought up him being available.
I think he'd be a great signing. I mean, that's that goes right in there with that third down back role. Somebody who can still be effective, and we wouldn't use him more than 8 times a game. I know he's a veteran, but that's who we could use. Just a guy who we get out there on fresh legs for 6 to 8 snaps. Throw those screens, make people miss outside, and I'm sure he would come cheap at this point too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us add another name. I don't believe that Hood's roster spot is guaranteed. I'm sure he's on a completely unguaranteed contract.
I agree.
And Cameron Payne also same thing. You know, as much as I like him, I've seen great things out of him. It's just a crowded running back room at this point. I mean, I think he's a good runner. I think people get a bad taste in their mouth about him because of those 2 bad exchanges between him and Cam last year.
You can say that about Stewart last year too, though.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that Cam, I mean, he's hard to run that read option with, man. He pulls that ball in there for so long, and the bright spot is he often will break it for 50 yards randomly on you.
Yeah.
But with him holding it that long, the running backs sometimes can't get the grip that they like to, the moment they like to on that ball. So it just takes practice, and Cameron Payne was not the guy getting those reps with Cam. So I think that led to the 2 fumbles that happened, although both were recovered by the offense. I like Cameron Payne, but it's going to be tough for him to make the team this year.
Yeah. And that's, I tend to agree. The Fozzy Whitaker thing helps out a little bit. I'm actually, I'm reading some Facebook comments coming in here, and one of them, Antonio Carrell, saying he's hearing Hood may get fullback reps, kind of, going back to what you were talking about, him being a bruiser. And I saw this being brought up as well, because he was used as a fullback some in the past. But I've also saw somebody actually asked Bill Voth this, I believe, and he was saying that he felt like they may get away from the fullback, traditional fullback sets with Norv Turner, kind of that old school offense, I guess you would. So Hood might be, there's a chance he might get in there. I mean, do you see him getting fullback reps?
Well, I think Turner is probably looking for the next Mike Tolbert, and I think that's why we're looking at guys like Anderson, looking at guys like Hood. He had Tolbert for all those years down in San Diego, and basically made Mike Tolbert into the household name that he is. I mean, Tolbert still makes the Pro Bowl every year because he's Mike Tolbert, even though, the effective Mike Tolbert left the building years ago. Right. But he still makes the Pro Bowl, so it is what it is. But Hood, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've heard people talk about him being a lead blocker and how he would fill that kind of that flex role, kind of like we had Richie Brockle doing for a while. That big guy, the lead blocker that we move all around the field. Mm-hmm. Yep. And we use him multi-purpose. I think that's how he could fit, and that's how he could potentially make the team. Because right now, Ed Dixon played a lot of fullback for us last year, and Dixon's now gone, which was a good thing. We're going to get a comp pick for him. But we're going to look for that guy to fill in that same role that we can put on the end of the line, that we can come out of the backfield with. I think Hood fits in that sense. And if that's how they want to use him, that's his best shot to make the team as a fullback type.
Right. Reading some other comments here from earlier. Brandon Montero saying he thinks Moten will fill the void nicely at guard, talking about how Ron was very high on his abilities. That was a lot of the talk last year with Taylor Moten, was the coaches were so high on him. He's highly intelligent. And they used a 2nd-round pick on him. So obviously they like him. And then Brandon also saying he loves the C.J. Anderson signing. He'll be competing for the starting job. And, I've said this before on the show, post-game shows particularly, and last season, whoever starts the game doesn't particularly mean anything, because it's all about the team they're playing and how they want to come out in the first set for the first play of the game and start against that team. Because C.J. Anderson might get the first snap of the game doesn't mean he's won the job over Christian McCaffrey necessarily, or vice versa. It's just how they game plan for that team and what they think is going to work better starting that game and offensively game plan wise.
Oh yeah, skill position starters for our team don't mean anything at all. I mean, I found that out over the years. It's where you can basically look at Anderson and McCaffrey as 1A and 1B, and the split could go any number of ways depending on who we're playing. Nobody should read too much into that. I think we should be happy that we can look at our depth chart and say we've got 2 legitimate starters at running back, two guys that teams are going to look at and fear. I'd have to think long and hard about it, but with Anderson and McCaffrey, that's probably one of the most dangerous duos in the league right now.
Yeah, that would be. And that
it's
sounds
not
so good.
Ingram, but Kamara's a special talent. But Ingram's going to be out for 4 games.
I was going to say, yeah, Ingram's gone. He had to go mess up.
Yeah, well, and I try not to judge the guy because with that stuff, it could be the same thing with putting Thomas Davis down for 4 games for all we know. So I mean, I'm going to enjoy it. Anytime the Saints get weaker, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and somebody was talking about. I saw somebody. I think it was Pro Football Talk put out an article talking about how Ingram, like the first 4 games of the Saints season, was probably their softest stretch throughout the whole season. So it kind of worked out for them. But I'm always of the mindset too. The NFL changes so much year to year. You can't ever this whole strength of schedule thing going in. Maybe it's a good basis you can look at for that kind of thing, but. Just like you saw, the Saints went from, struggling year to year, having a very good draft going into 2017 and blew up. I mean, I still think they were probably the best outside of that Minnesota miracle. I still think they were probably the best NFC team in the playoffs that year, strength-wise. I mean, they were just playing really well. I'd have loved to see them play the Eagles, and hopefully the Eagles beat them, obviously. But I still think they were pretty strong.
I mean, and I can't help but think back to our divisional game against the Saints, and this is why I'm glad we drafted DJ Moore and we went out and got some more talent at wide receiver. If we just catch the damn football, we win that game. No questions asked. Cam played one of the best games I've ever seen him play in my life. He was on target all night. He had receivers drop 2 touchdown passes and several others.
That pass to Kalen Clay in the end zone, man. I mean, It couldn't have been more perfect if you asked it. I mean, if you were to go down there and place the ball, like just hand it off to him, it couldn't have been any better. And it was just a flat out drop.
You might as well put it on a tee. Yep. I mean, it was in such a great spot. And I just couldn't believe that. And I felt so bad for Cam because, man, after that stinker we had against Atlanta the week prior, for Cam to come in focused and just play absolutely lights out like that and watch the receivers just not able to do anything. Funchess was out there limping, and we had whoever else behind him. Everybody
the law
else
firm
was hurt. Yeah, exactly. Burson and Clay. Ugh, that's awful.
Yeah.
But this year I'm looking down the roster and thinking, all right, we're deep. We'll see what Moore can do. We'll see what a lot of these guys can do. We'll see if Samuel can take a step forward. There's a lot of unknowns, but talent.
Yep, exactly. And that's one of the biggest key Hurney said he wanted to deliver on this year at the skill positions, and he's done that so far. And speaking of draft picks, 5 of the Panthers draft picks 2018 have signed their contracts this afternoon. Tight end Ian Thomas, defensive end Marcus Haynes, linebacker Jermaine Carter, and defensive tackle Kendrick Norton and Dante Jackson. Of course, Jackson being the 2nd-round pick. DJ Moore, Rashawn Golden, and Andre Smith still have to sign theirs. It's supposed to happen, probably tomorrow. We got rookie minicamp coming up this weekend, so that's going to be. I would love to be out there and watching Dante Jackson and DJ Moore against each other. Dante Jackson is going to be a fun dude, man.
Oh yeah, I mean he. It's early and I hate to put too much on the guy, but I think he might have been the steal of the 2nd round. That kid can fly.
Yep.
I mean, he makes up ground in no time. As soon as he figures out what route you're running, that ball better already be on the way because that's your only chance at having a clean window. He's going to close that gap and be there in no time. I don't care that he's a little bit light. If you've got a guy that fast hitting you, it's the same as a guy who's 200 pounds hitting you.
Yep.
I think too much is being made of him being a little bit light and his arms being, a half-inch short, which is just ridiculous in my opinion. But I think he's going to be a great player for us. We haven't had speed at the corner position like that ever. So that he's going to be great. I hope. Hopefully he can learn really, really quickly. And Golden, he's not very fast, but I'm a halfway Tennessee fan. Now that App State's in Division I, I don't watch him as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. But Golden, he can play. He'll be a good, strong safety for us if we let him. And that looks like that's our intention. We've already got him listed as a safety on the website. So we'll see what happens with him. But I'd love to watch a foot race between DJ Moore and Dante Jackson.
Yeah, no kidding. The swagger he's going to bring to this defense. I mean, I'm just loving the stuff that the Panthers social media and reporters are putting up there. Quick little clips of them talking, like sitting down today to do a little interview, sitting down talking about Do I look all right? Do I look good? Oh, that's a rhetorical question. I know I look good. He's going to bring that. He's going to bring that swagger, that hard hitting physicality with that, smaller package that everybody keeps talking about. But I kind of feel the same way. Josh Norman's length made him good for making up on, kind of baiting quarterbacks. Really, we saw it in the Saints game when he made that crazy interception to seal the game in 2015. And what Jackson can bring there is just what you said. His speed can make up for his lack of size and his instincts. I mean, y'all's Billy Marshall did a breakdown on all y'all's draft picks, and he showed a lot of that. He showed a lot of that stuff where his speed made up for those, a couple mistakes he had. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Billy's a great evaluator of talent, and I always trust him whenever he tells me. I usually I know most about linemen, but whenever we're talking about secondary and receivers, I always defer to him. And he loves Dante Jackson. He's a pretty big fan of DJ Moore, and I'll tell you, he was over the moon when we selected Ian Thomas. He sees great things for him.
Yeah, and that's the guy I look forward to watching grow because the first thing I saw actually was Billy's tweet came through first talking about Carolina could select Ian Thomas right now to start this day, and it would make my day is exactly what he said, and they did it, and he took off with it. And the potential's there. I mean, his athletic profile's through the roof. Now, a lot of people are talking about, well, if he's good, where's his production? But he only had 1 year in Division I football.
Yeah,
Indiana. Yeah, I mean, look, it works out well for us because we got him at a great value. So, immediate upgrade over Ed Dixon, potentially. I mean, I feel like it will be. I feel like he can come in and contribute almost right away. So behind Greg, I mean, it's going to be fun to watch.
It will be fun to watch. And for somebody who people are touting as, raw and a little bit of a project, when you watch him run routes and you watch him catch the football, he doesn't look like a guy who's inexperienced. I mean, he is very fluid out there. He catches that football and he's already into a running motion. Like there's no hesitation. It's just one smooth, fluid motion. And he couldn't possibly be in a better situation. He gets to learn from Greg Olson. He gets Norv Turner as offensive coordinator, who of course has made several tight ends career, most notably Antonio Gates.
Yep.
Exactly. This is a man who knows how to use the tight end and is going to be able to get the most out of him. So Ian Thomas can't possibly have asked for a better situation to walk into to start his career.
Hey, nail on the head there. I mean, like you said, walking in behind Greg Olson and getting to learn from him his final 2 years is got to be, the biggest blessing coming from, 1 year Division I football going straight to the NFL. I'm really excited to see what these skill positions are going to play out this year. And, Norv Turner is getting those same pieces in Carolina that he has had on his other successful teams. And I'm just hoping it translates because they've done a heck of a job getting more speed and more athleticism at those skill positions. So it's like we said, man, it's going to be fun to watch. And one more thing we're going to hit on tonight. Yesterday, report came out from Joe Person. Eric, I imagine you saw this as well. Everybody, again, Eric Summers from Cat Scratch Reader, SB Nation site for the Panthers, editor over there. Y'all need to check out their stuff, catscratchreader.com. But something that got released yesterday was Panthers bidder Ben Navarro, one of the final bidders, as it's been reported anyway, trying to buy the Panthers, has reportedly put out an offer to Peyton Manning to partner. This is a lot of Panther fans. I posted this thing yesterday. And a lot of Panther fans got up there and they're still salty from 2015. And don't get me wrong, I am too. But Peyton Manning did not win that game for Denver Broncos.
No, he didn't.
But I thought this was interesting because it's kind of came out of left field for me. I know he's been trying to get more into the business, and there's always been talk of him wanting to be, in that owner management platform in the NFL. But I honestly wouldn't have thought it would have came with Carolina. What are your thoughts? Have you seen anything else on it? What are your thoughts with that?
Well, as far as who it would start with, if you're looking to get your foot in the door with NFL ownership, you just take the first available opportunity.
Yeah. And
you could certainly do worse than Carolina. You could end up with a team that's been bad for a long time, but Carolina's been good for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So, if I were him and I were looking to get into the ownership side of things, I absolutely believe that Carolina would be a great place to get in. Now, here's a thing that is not being as talked about and probably ought to be. We've got an owner leaving in disgrace right now because of sexual harassment claims and all that.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with
Peyton
this.
Manning's record is not exactly pristine either. There's, again, there's no proof. There's a settled case, et cetera, from back when he was in college at Tennessee. A lot of gray area about it. He was just a kid back then. You can say it's the same thing that's haunting Matt Patricia right now in Detroit. They're looking at him for something that happened, more than 20 years ago, which was apparently dismissed, but it's going to be a thing on sports media for a while now. I would ask those questions if I were the NFL of Peyton Manning, and I'm sure they won't. I mean, Peyton Manning's their golden boy.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it deserves to be mentioned that, is this the image that the Panthers want to put forth, going from a guy who was forced to sell the team because of harassment concerns to a guy who has been accused of it in the past? Not saying that he's still that way. Why would he need to be? But it deserves to be talked about, and it's not. I have nothing against Peyton myself. As a former football player, I know all kinds of crap happens in athletic training rooms and locker rooms and all that stuff, but it deserves to be mentioned in the whole conversation.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that Ben Navarro, how this whole thing, like you mentioned, came about in the first place. It's interesting that an owner would actually go after somebody who, has had that brought up. Like you said, there's never really proven, which is fine and dandy. I mean, as of, right now, it's Jerry Richardson looks about guilty as can be, but it's still technically, he hasn't been charged with anything yet,
No.
So he's still technically in the clear. But it's just interesting with all this going on that they would try to, Ben Navarro would reach out to somebody that has that potential record, knowing what just happened to Jerry Richardson. That is a great point.
You got to wonder if Navarro even knows. I mean,
he could be out of that loop. As big of a business as he runs, I mean, he could easily be out of that loop.
Yep.
So that's a great point. We got a question up here from Chris Banks I wanted to hit too. He was asking, is there still any chance we sign a veteran free safety? I know this is a popular subject still among Panthers fans. Unless they get one, the safety market has been just low this year. And actually Searcy is, I think he's the 5th highest paid free agent safety this offseason. Kurt Coleman was number 1 going to the Saints, ironically. But I don't see Carolina. They seem, the way the Panthers reporters and like Bill Voth, he's about dialed in on Carolina as you can be. The way those guys talk, it doesn't seem like that they're going to go after another guy. I know they've talked to Eric Reed, but with the situation, Jerry Richardson still being at the helm, the situation that's around his team right now, I find it hard to believe that they're going to go after that, especially with, he's got that grievance filed against the NFL. And then there's still talk about Trey Boston potentially coming back, which is a complete 180 turn from when he left Carolina, because a lot of fans were shooing him out the door.
Yeah, and I would still say they probably would still shoot him out the door. However, he would probably be better than whoever we have right now. The only way we're upgrading at free safety at this point is if we get Eric Reed. He's the only one available that is a clear game changer at the safety position. And, this whole situation with the anthem and all that drives me nuts.
Yep.
And I can't believe that this is even a concern with Eric Reed, to be honest. We could use him, and his addition could make us win a Super Bowl, man. I mean, he would really. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I thought I lost you for a second there. His addition could really put us over the top on defense. We could be an absolutely dominant unit. But, I think the safety position in general has been devalued under Rivera and company, and we've been getting by for a long time with not great safeties. So it's not something I'm overly concerned about. I wouldn't be surprised if we look at like some, have a rotation in there in camp, and we'll just see who works out. I would like to see a little bit more speed in deep center field, but I just don't see who other than Eric Reed or at minimum Trey Boston could really help us out right now, and how we'll afford them. Fozzy Whitaker going on injured reserve. I think they can probably reach an injury settlement with him if they want to release him. and they can reclaim his $1.5 million in cap space. But beyond that, they'll have to, they can cut Russell Shepard to make some room.
I still think that'll happen.
And it should. I mean, I'm looking down the wide receiver room going, how in the world does Russell Shepard
You've got 6 receivers.
Make this team?
Yep, you got 6 receivers who should be on the 53 going into the season right now if everybody's healthy, and Curtis Samuel, doesn't have any setbacks. You have 6 of those, and Russell Shepard is not one of them.
No, he is not one of them. And he as much of an opportunity as he had last year to make an impact, he made none. And Cam was trying to feed the man. He just couldn't do it. So I would think that Shepard's out of here. That clears a couple more million in cap space. We don't have a whole lot going on. We could convert some of Cam or Luke's contracts into bonuses and give them more up front, clear some cap space. But really, the only way I think we're going to get a talent upgrade at free safety is to pull Eric Reed in here.
Yeah, and I would be all for it.
I would too.
And, I don't feel like, I feel like Trey Boston at this point may be holding out. Like, he's got a set limit that he's going to take for pay. And there's still plenty of time before the season gets here. I feel like he's going to land somewhere eventually. Yeah. And it's probably not going to be what
his list. I'm sure we're definitely on his list. He went to school in Carolina. His family's here.
He's in Carolina, just about every week right now, doing training with some of the UNC players.
Yeah, he lives here. I mean, I'm sure he would love to come back to Carolina. We didn't, the man who released him is out. Gettleman's not here anymore, and it all depends on how Rivera feels about him. It's not unheard of to see guys get cut and then come back. So we'll see. I think it's possible that he's going to hang around until we actually see these guys on the field in training camp, and Rivera kind of gets a feel for what he's got, and then maybe Boston gets a phone call because he's familiar with the scheme already.
Right.
He'll need to make a few minor adjustments based on what Eric Washington wants to do differently than when he was here. But I have a feeling there isn't going to be a whole lot different for him. Safeties in general, there's not a lot of scheme variance for those guys.
Yeah, like you said, that would be pretty much seamless for Carolina coming right back in. Well, guys, let's see. I'm going to hit some of these comments that rolled in here. One of them was asking about Trey Boston and Eric Reed, so we hit that perfectly. Dante Ames saying he's more concerned about the offensive line and backup linebackers. And then Dante, again, just commented and saying we need 2 safeties. Adams is very suspect. And I actually thought he played very well for his age, and I feel like they think he's going to take that another step, possibly, getting used to that defense. Of course, I feel like Eric Washington is going to switch some things around there too, so that's going to be something else to watch.
I think we're going to see Adams at strong safety until Bashad. I was about to say Bashad Breeland.
Yeah, I caught that.
And it's kind of similar. Yeah, Bashad Breeland, Rashawn Galdman.
Yeah.
And, gosh, I hate that Breeland thing didn't work out. But anyway, I think we're going to see Adams until Galdman is ready to take over. And that's just the way it is. And Adams played well for us last year, and I can't assume he's getting any slower. So I have no problem with him continuing to do it. It's fine. Strong safety can be a little bit slower. That's okay.
Yep. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. And Eric, again, I know this was last minute for you. I appreciate you doing it again. Tell them where, obviously, I've told them catscratchreader.com. I've got all your stuff tagged up here. But tell them where they can find you and y'all on Twitter and all that good stuff.
Yep. So as he said, I'm on catscratchreader.com. I'm one of the editors over there. Come check us out. We've always got good discussion happening. And the best way to talk football with me is to find me on Twitter. And my name is @Tater596. That's @TATER 596.
Cool, man. Y'all, we'll be back here. Well, I'll be back here next Tuesday. I'm actually going to have an LSU journalist up here to talk Dante Jackson and what he saw in Dante the last few years while watching him at LSU. That should be a lot of fun. I'm interested to hear this. I'm kind of looking forward to that. So stay tuned to that. I think that's going to be Tuesday night, and I'll keep you posted on that. But y'all keep pounding, and I'll see you next time.